This is day 90 and today we are looking at macros. So we are going to cover a few items regarding macros. So you might have heard the word macro being used and you probably don't know what it is. So I'm going to cover that, and also I'm going to cover on how to record a macro and what is the benefit of a macro. So I'm going to use a very simple example to just demonstrate what a macro is, what it does, and how to record it. But in my future videos, I will be showing also some of the concepts regarding macros, a little bit more advanced concepts, and also refer to my channel where I have full videos where I cover macros as well. So the first thing you would want to do is to change the file extension to a macro-enabled workbook, because a normal Excel workbook cannot contain a macro. So you have to change it first. Okay, so I have saved my workbook as a macro-enabled workbook. So you can see now the extension is now XLSM. So to do that, I've just said File, then done Save As. Okay, now it's a macro-enabled workbook. I can record a macro. So to record a macro, you come here and click on this box here. If you can't see this box on your computer or on your Excel, you can also search macro here under the search window here, or search record macro. So you can see as I type record macro, here is the option. So I just select record macro. Then it will ask you, what is the name of your macro? I would say macro 1, just leave it as it is. And there are some rules regarding naming macros, but the one basic rule I'm going to tell you is that don't leave any spaces here in the name. For example, macro space 1, just say macro 1 as one word. You can also select a shortcut key you want to press to run that macro. I'm not going to do that. I'll just leave it as it is. For example, you can put, for example, Control I, for instance. Then once you press Control I, your macro will redo exactly what you would have done or what you would have recorded. And it will ask you where to store the macro. You can choose a workbook to store it in, or you can store in this current workbook. Then you can describe what your macro does. So here I'm going to just say rerun my few steps. So my macro is going to rerun my few steps. Then I say, okay. Then from this point on, I'm recording what I want my macro to do. Remember, a macro does not record any idle time. For example, right now I'm not doing anything in my workbook, so a macro will not record it. It will only record the steps that I do in my workbook. So maybe the first thing I would want to do is to select this range and put it in outside border. Then here I would want to put then maybe let me just highlight a few things here. Okay, anything 10 and below, just highlighting it. I would have also used conditional format, but I'm just doing the manual way here. Okay. Then I just want to highlight these guys here. Okay. All right, these ones I highlight them in green color. Okay, maybe yeah, that's basically what I want to do with my workbook. Then I'm done recording my macro. Then I can stop it here. I can just click at this on this box here. It's done, it's recorded. Let me just insert a shape here. So then let me name it macro 1. Or you can give it a name, whatever you want to give it. Let me just say rerun. Then I can assign my macro. Then I say assign macro. There's only one macro in my workbook. Then I say okay. Then I say okay. All right. So now if I try to select this shape, you can see there is a hand selector there. So before I run the macro, let me just format it as it was. So let me just clear all the formatting. Okay. Now I can run my macro. You can see that it took a very few seconds to redo what I'd done. So a macro basically is something where you can record a subroutine. For example, if you have a report that you do on a monthly basis, then you would format it and do various other things. You can make use of a macro to do all those routine tasks. So a macro is basically a subroutine which you can record. So in my next video, in future, we will be looking at how we can now edit the macro that I have just recorded, and also on how to actually manually type a macro code, or how to code a macro, because you would have seen here that I've manually highlighted these numbers. But if my data changes and the highest numbers are no longer located in these ranges, or the lowest numbers are no longer located in these ranges, my macro is not going to pick it up. It's going to highlight the stem cells. So I'll be looking at how to dynamically now code your macro so that it can sort of work dynamically depending on how your data is structured. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Watch out for more videos coming. Thank you. Bye-bye.